over the last 12 months with the ongoing COVID pandemic. So I guess that means many of us could do with a little help on how to deal with the increased levels. So let's find out more as we welcome GeorgiMottram to Backstage, who's in Jersey. Who would have known?
Hi, how are you?
Good afternoon. I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for joining us. Before we talk about your work as a practitioner, tell me about your performing career, because an opera singer, it's not something I know a great deal. I know about musical theatre performers, and I guess there are some similarities, but opera is quite different to musical theatre, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I trained as an opera singer at Trinity Laban, and then after that I did some shows, I did some operas, and then I actually got myself an agent and started auditioning for West End things. So I did a show at the Charing Cross Theatre and a little night or two at the Adelphi, which was lovely. And essentially I met the girls of my classical crossover group, who are all opera singers, Ida Girls London, on an off West End show called Princess Ida. And since then I manage and direct the group, and it's been an absolute joy. So we basically perform all over the world. We've been so lucky with the things that we've done, and we just performed for Prince Edward at Windsor Castle, and we were supposed to make our Buckingham Palace debut, would you believe? But it got cancelled because of COVID. I know, so that was a bummer, but do you know what I mean? There's definitely a lot worse things going on. So that's been a total joy. So essentially, I guess I've done more crossover work than straight opera. I mean, I did in college. As soon as I left, I did a few operas. But then I just went into the crossover world, which has been amazing. So yeah, it's been a total joy. And I mean, gosh, we lost about 30 contracts or something ridiculous when lockdown happened. But all good, everything, us and everyone else in the industry. So yeah, that's what I've kind of been doing for the last 5 years.
And there is this one, you use the term crossover, and it's great, isn't it? Because it's making different kinds of music more accessible to people, be it opera, be it country music, whatever it might be. There seems to be meeting of different types of music.
100%. And that's like the basis for our shows, really. So we do bite-sized bits of opera. So very often we get people come to the show and they go, and we talk to everyone after and they go, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I liked opera. We're like, I know, because there's some cracking bits of opera that you'll probably all know and love, but you don't necessarily put it, as being opera, like lots of things from Carmen and Puccini, just like really lovely, famous things. So we definitely do bite-sized bits of opera in our shows, and we do musical theatre in our shows as well. And I mean, and we do bits of pop as well. So yes, we very much have like a well-rounded show that kind of gives people a bit of everything. So it's not just like straight opera. We give people like the really fun bite-sized bits. So it works really well as a show, I think.
Is the technique for opera singing very different to musical theatre singing?
I guess it depends what type of musical theatre singing. So I guess if you're, kind of modern musical theatre that's potentially more belty. I mean, lots of musical theatre is belty. Yes, it's a different technique. But lots of the things will cross over. I mean, just are as, both types are as hard as each other. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's like, it's a different way of singing for sure. But lots of the things do cross over in musical theatre and opera. And obviously the way you, the projection of the voice and the way you kind of sustain technique and vocal health and things, that's all going to be really similar across the board, I would imagine. So yeah.
Now, earlier on in the programme, I was talking to Bill Ward, and we both got very excited we have got very excited about going into empty theatres. There's something very special about that. And one of my enduring memories is going to the London Palladium before a show. I can't remember. I think it was Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. So it was 25 years ago, or whatever. And I walked across the stage, and I just sat down on the edge of the stage, and I looked out, and actually I was recording an interview with one of the cast members, and I kind of got palpitations because it's a very special place, the Palladium, as lots of different auditoriums are, and I love going to the theatre, but I don't know how on earth anyone can stand up in front of, in that case, 2,500 people and perform. And I guess it was a mixture of excitement and anxiety. And anxiety is something that performers have to learn to live with.
Yeah, but if you think about what you're doing now, you're performing to a lot of people, right? You just not necessarily can't see them.
True.
So what you're doing is extremely brave too, you know, and lots of people would struggle with that.
Oh, this is easy. No, this is just me talking to a microphone. This is simple.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that you say that. So I had an interview at the Jersey Opera House in the summer to obviously an empty theatre, and it just, oh gosh, like pulls at your heartstrings. It's such a magical place, but was so kind of heartbreaking to see it empty. And my classical crossover group, Ida, actually released a Les Mis medley.
I know, we played it last year on the programme.
Yes,
it's fantastic. Trouble is, it's 7 minutes, so we're pushed for time today. I need the bite-sized 3-minute version.
Yeah, definitely. But because obviously Official London Theatre like put that out for us, and it was amazing, and because it had such an amazing response, ITV in Jersey.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, so they got me on the TV there. So we did an interview on the Jersey Opera House stage, and as you say, it's just like one of the most magical places, isn't it? But what you were saying about anxiety that performers get, I mean, performers have it's such an incredible job, but it's such a hard job, you know, as well, to keep your nervous system in that place, to keep that adrenaline, you know, every night, sometimes 8 times a week. And it's, you know, it can be really grueling on your body physically, really, to keep doing that. So, yeah, it's a very interesting rod. It's a very fulfilling, absolutely one of the most fulfilling professions ever, but it can be really hard on your body, you know. And for me, I found it particularly hard at one point. I kind of had a couple of emotional, you know, very taxing things that had happened to me, and I was doing, you know, gone on, it must be like 50 long haul flights that year. It would have been 25 like, you know, international contracts that we were doing. So it was just a lot for my body. And I just got to a point where I was like, whoa, I was, you know, experiencing this acute anxiety every day. And then it got me thinking, I was like, my goodness, like this is actually a little bit of an epidemic. Like now I'm kind of sharing this. Lots of performers are also sharing this. And wow, I didn't think this was a thing. And, you know, there's still quite a lot of stigma attached to it. And, you know, for me, I was like, my goodness, like where do I even start to get help with this? Because you don't really get taught it in college. You know, you don't really get taught that you might experience this, because really your body is experiencing, you know, this adrenaline spike all the time. And to bring it back down to balance, you actually have to work at that. It's something that you need to kind of incorporate into your life. For me, anyway, that's what I kind of think. And yeah, it was just a really interesting journey to go on, and very eye-opening, really.
Is stage fright anxiety?
Yes, at its purest level, yes, it's anxiety. It's a secretion of ATCH hormone in your body. It's basically a fight or flight response that you're, you know, it's a triggered fight or flight response. So yes, it is anxiety, and it's actually, interestingly, whilst we think it's to do with the stage and the audience, it's sometimes just to do with the fear itself. Like sometimes we just feeling the feeling of fear. Does that make sense? Which is really interesting. It's like actually what we're fearing is that feeling of that fight or flight that we don't want, you know? So very often we think it's the stage and the audience, but sometimes it's actually the feeling of fear that we're scared about.
So I guess stage fright or anxiety, it was going to affect everybody differently, and some of us will effectively thrive on it and never realise we've got it, or just think it's that fluttering in the tummy, and it's a normal feeling before you go on stage. Others, yeah, of course, I mean, go to extremes.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say stage fright is adrenaline overflow, and adrenaline's a really important thing about performing. It's amazing to have adrenaline when you perform. However, when it starts going into that overflow, which is your fight or flight response, that's when you want to switch off your fight or flight response, because that's when your body thinks that you're in an unsafe environment. You know, it's kind of a primal response. In the olden days, it would be because your body would think a tiger was in the room. So it's very important for performers to basically turn down the dial so you don't necessarily go into the adrenaline overflow responses, which is obviously where breathwork comes in and has a massive part to play in that.
So did you spot yourself having those symptoms?
Mine was interesting. So mine was basically acute anxiety through the day. So it was, of course, like anxiety attacks as well and panic attacks, but it was very much through through my day to day. So I couldn't really get through a whole day without being in this consistent state of fight or flight. My nervous system was just, like through the roof. And obviously I was still doing a lot of performances, but because I've got such a strong, because I've been, done more than like 1,000 performances in my lifetime, my muscle memories could quite easily go into what I remembered. So I wouldn't necessarily go into the realms of adrenaline overflow, but because I was experiencing all this anxiety, it just made me really feel for the people that are dealing, like me, are dealing with anxiety through their days. And I think being a performer, you have to be, because you're self-employed as well, you have to be on such high alert all the time, because you're kind of either looking for your next job, or you're like, getting your repertoire ready, or you're waiting for a call by your agent, and everything.
It seems to me, Georgie, that as a performer, you never actually get to enjoy what you're doing, because you have to be 2 steps ahead. You've got to be thinking about probably the contract after next.
Yeah. And that's the kind of balance. So you want, in your day, it's really important to turn the dial down on your adrenaline, to turn the dial down on your anxiety levels. So you can have that balance, so then when you do go on stage, your anxiety and everything isn't up here, and then you go into adrenaline overflow. You want to bring it down. So then you have that balance, So when you go on stage, you're in a really healthy position, because you're not already stressed or anxious, So
how did you deal with it?
Basically breathwork, and I came across it by accident. I did basically a free breathwork session on YouTube, because I was just, I'd been to therapy sessions, and I'd been to doctors who prescribed me certain things, and no matter what and how many times I talked about it, I could not rid this anxiety, And then I did breathwork, and the next day I just felt honestly, like lighter than air. And I was like, oh my goodness me, it's been 6 months of consistent anxiety. And today, this is the first time that I felt good. And then I started to research about the body brain connection, and basically ridding anxiety from your body as opposed to ridding it from your mind. Because we very often think anxiety resides in the mind, but actually your body is residing in your body. And once you start to rid it from your body, then your mind can start firing and wiring, rational, calm, empowered neural pathways. Because when you're in a fight or flight response, your brain's in a fight or flight response. You can't think clearly, you can't think rationally. No matter how many times someone can tell you to calm down, or you can try and tell yourself to calm down, you're not in the, your neural pathways are firing and wiring the wrong way. So you need to, to have a calm and rational response to a situation or event. You need your body to be calm. You need to rid that anxiety from your body. And that was the ticket for me. And that was when everything made sense. I was like, oh wow, okay. So if I work with my body and almost heal my body on a cellular level, by this kind of holistic, potent healing modality, then my mind will start following suit. And it did. And that's just what happened. So I started doing these breathwork sessions, ridding my body of this anxiety, literally switching on my parasympathetic nervous system, switching off my amygdala in the brain, where that's where you store your trauma and fearful responses, switching off that. And then everything changed. And here I am, no anxiety, and I haven't since I started breathwork. And that was profound for me, which is why I feel so passionate about, sharing it. And obviously this might not work for everyone. Obviously I kind of believe it will, but, because that's what I did. But, lots of people do really benefit from, Western therapy. I mean, it's amazing. It really is really good to tackle the mind. But for me, the trick was tackling the body as well. And then the mind could more easily, as I say, start to create new neural pathways that I wanted it,
so
the way.
Without oversimplifying and certainly underplaying what you've gone through, is breathwork, as it says, is it about breathing? Is that the key to it?
100%. It's about, it's literally about the breath. And it's about, obviously, the breath is the only, is it autonomous, basically system in your body that you can also control. So by using the breath, you can start, basically putting your body into this really beautiful parasympathetic nervous response, and you can start releasing anxiety that is stored in your body, because your body is acting like a memory. Your heart has 40,000 neurons. It's remembering every event, every traumatic event, every emotional event. Your body's remembering it on a cellular level. So as soon as you start to neutralize that charge, everything opens up, and it is as simple as it sounds. It's breathwork. So through a breathwork session, I take my clients through, it's like a really deep dive session where we're doing lots of different breathwork techniques to rid the body from anxiety. And then basically subtle affirmative thinking. So on the lines of hypnotherapy, but not really, but basically subtle affirmative thinking so you can start creating the neural pathways that you want, you know. So yeah, it's one of the most, I guess it is a really simple thing, and it's an ancient thing, you know. We've been doing this since the dawn of time. We've just lost it and overcomplicated things.
But quite often, the more simple the thing, the better it is at sorting us out, isn't it? You know,
yeah, 100%.
People think that a few deep breaths, you know, again, without wishing to, you know, decry what you do, a few deep breaths. And I know I follow some meditation, especially if I am a bit stressed, and just, it's all about taking it back to that, breathing in deeply, holding it, and either letting it out slow, you know, depending on what you're trying to do. And there is this immediate feeling of almost serenity, I guess, if you do it and you do it properly.
Yeah. And, you know, if you do something as simple as breathe through your nose, so you've got lots of parasympathetic nervous receptors in your lower lungs that can only be activated by breathing through your nose. You start to elongate that exhale. That makes your vagus nerve secrete the hormone ACH, which basically acts like an anxiety tranquilizer. So simple. So if you are in a situation that is, you know, like high pressured, or you're starting to feel anxious, or whatever it is, literally breathing through your nose, elongating that exhale is on a basic physiological level, like starting to change what's going on in your body. So, you know, starting to get rid of anxiety. So it is, as you say, it's so simple, but so powerful. And we've just kind of, I think it's really good to bring it into the forefront, to be like, you know, this is a tool. You probably know it already, but just to remind you, this is going to help, you know?
It's that, you know, we're all beginning to get the message that it's okay not to be okay. That's certainly come to the fore in the last 12 months. But then we need to know how we stop being not okay and getting back to being okay. And as you say, for most of us, it could be as simple as taking a deep breath and holding it and just letting out slowly, and how much nicer than having to go to see a doctor for medication. I mean, you know, there are times when that's obviously important, but maybe this is a good way to start, good first base, to see if it helps you. Yeah,
and it's definitely good to have a tool in your toolbox, you know, because obviously, like, medications are amazing for, you know, chemical imbalances and all those things. But, you know, if there is something in your life that has made you anxious, that's really tangible, you know, like a pandemic, you know, that's really, of course, that's going to be anxiety making, you know, it's like a really hard time. So it's like, I wonder if people have, you know, these kind of tools in their toolbox to start to work with the body to get rid of the anxiety and stress and trauma from the body, and then see how their mind's feeling. And then if it's still feeling that way, absolutely, like, go explore those things. But it's just a good option to explore, you know, as well as everything else that, you know.
So if anyone wants to find out more details, or they want to get in touch with you, Georgie, how do they do it?
Oh, so my website is www.powerofthebreath.co.uk. I'm on Instagram, on @breathewithgeorgie, GeorGi, no spaces. And of course, if you want to email me any questions, or if you do indeed want to book a session, you can either head to my website, or my email is breathewithgeorgie, spelled the same way, @gmail.com. And yes, and as I say, if you have any questions, or there's lots and lots of information on my website, if you just want to read more about it, read a bit about the science behind it, things like that, then feel free to go and have a look.
Well, thank you very much for joining us on Mothering Sunday. You've got to take your mum out for dinner, so you better get on.
Yeah, I know, because the restaurants have just opened in Jersey, which is so exciting.
Deep breaths. I wish you luck. It's been very nice to chat with you, and to see you on your way, I'm going to play you singing. I'm going to play a track featuring your very good self and Rodney Earl Clark. This is
Letters
called
from
Letters
Home.
from Home. Thank you very much, and talk to you soon.
Yeah, talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye.
My dear, I've been away now for 3 months, nearly 4. I have missed you every day of this long and tiring tour. I do this for my country and for our future too. But I'm counting down the hours with you.
My love, it's been so long since I felt your lips touch mine. I've been trying to keep busy to somehow pass the time. I know this is your duty, and of you I'm so proud, but there is this constant worry, like an overhanging cloud. But for you each day I pray for protection from above. So I send this letter to you with my prayers
And with my love. My love, please don't worry. I know that's fine to say, but the time is passing by. I am nearly on my way.
The thought of you still smiling is that which pulls me through, thinking of the strength and courage and the loveliness in you. But for you each day I pray for protection from above. So I send this letter to you with my prayers.
With my love.
Oh, my love, your strength is in you too.
You may find it in the love I have for you.
Through this conflict and all this time apart,
I am with you forever in your heart. But for you each day I pray for protection from above. You will return to me someday with my prayers.
and with my love, through my prayers, and
Through my
Called Letters from Home. GeorgiMottram, who was our second guest on the programme, and Rodney Earl Clark. We'll be talking about Tommy Cooper in just a moment. But if you're a fan of the musical Chicago, great news. From September of this year, fingers crossed, running through until February next year, a brand new tour has been announced. Casting was made public on Friday. Faye Brooks is going to be playing Roxy. Sunita is going to be Mama Morton. Dalenia Scott is Velma. Davina De Campo will be playing Mary Sunshine. And Joel Montague is going to be Amos Hart. So if you're a fan of the show, don't miss it. I'm sure it'll come to a theatre near you. As and when we get venue details, I will surely share it with you.
Sundays from midday on Second City Radio. Head backstage with Ian Brown for the latest theatre news and guests from the performing arts.
And we'll meet this week's final guest after Brass Incorporated. Oh, I just love that piece of music. It was called Just Like That, and it was done just like that by Brass Incorporated. It used to be Terry Wogan's theme tune on the radio back in the 1970s, if you think you've heard it before. Come on, it's 1:45 for heaven's sake on Mothering Sunday, and it's time to meet my final guest. And if I got the right script in front of me, I'd be able to introduce him, wouldn't I? This coming Friday marks 100 years since the birth of one of Britain's funniest comedians ever.